change very quickly. But it is a situation, obviously, we've been watching, praying for. It's a very, very difficult situation. And here at Life Outreach International, we support Israel. We also pray for the people who are suffering all around the Middle East, whether it's Syria, Gaza, all the places where there are just people in charge who are completely antithetical to Christ. And so that's kind of where we're at. We don't discriminate when it comes to helping people in the sense of our mission outreaches. But in this situation, I do believe that Israel is on the right side and that we need to align and stay there. And the last thing I'll say before I get to my guest is that the situation going on here in the United States, after October 7th and the weeks following, I texted many of my Jewish friends and said, look, I don't like what I see going on in my own country. I want you to know you have a friend here, and if you need anything, reach out, and what can I do for you, And that has meant a lot to them. And I think if you have Jewish friends here in the United States, you need to let them know, hey, look, we support you. We don't like this attitude that's going on. It's just anti-Semitism, and it's not good. Today's guest is doing a lot of work and has been doing a lot of great work in Israel for many years. I'll let him talk about that. And there's been a little bit of a shift since October 7th. Nir Salomon is the Executive Director of EFRAT, which is an organization that works in Israel. It's not what you would think. I'll let him explain it. And he joins us from an airport in New York City right now where he's getting ready to go back over to Israel. But I wanted to give you a glimpse, a little bit of sort of what's going on right now in this overall fight against terrorism. Nir, welcome to Life Today Live. Great to have you today.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you for your listeners listening in to really get a glimpse of what's going on from a positive perspective.
Yeah.
But it's a difficult situation. The situation is actually very difficult. So I'll tell you a little bit about the organization.
Please.
It will at least enlighten our day. The EFRAT organization stands for life. EFRAT, for the past 47 years, has supported pregnant women in Israel that unfortunately for financial reasons, very similar to in the United States, find themselves in a situation that they have no choice. They feel they have to terminate their pregnancy. People say to me, well, but that doesn't make sense. What right mother-to-be would choose to have an abortion? The answer is no mother. But if a mother is in such unbelievable stress, she's not taking logical decisions. We need to make sure that we alleviate that stress and tell her, listen to your inner self. What do you really want? You have a baby growing inside of you. You have to make a decision, but don't be stressed out because you don't have the vision of how you're going to buy a crib, a carriage, a baby bath. That's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. We will provide that. When we see the war happening right now, my son is on the southern border with Gaza in the Golani Brigade. I will do anything to bring back my son alive. So won't I provide a crib or a carriage for this wonderful new baby to come into this world? So we've been doing this for about 47 years. You can read about us at efrat.org. And we've helped over 86,000 women have their children. Just listen to that number. In Israel, a small country, 86,000 women, we save over 3,000 babies every single year in Israel. All of these babies are being raised by their birth mothers. This is not a young girl got in trouble and we took her and we send her out to adoption. It doesn't happen. These are women, unfortunately, that find themselves at their wits' end and they just don't see a future. Now in Israel, when we're during the war, when we realize we're really fighting for our survival, my father himself was a Holocaust survivor from Luxembourg. It's just a few years later, all of a sudden, we're being threatened again, literally for the survival of Israel. We value life even that much more. So I think the importance is to see that the Israeli fight right now, this war, is actually a war of life. There's a lot of death that's involved in it. But sometimes, unfortunately, and if we read the Bible, we understand that there are wars that they're not just that they're fought, they are commanded to be fought. That's a very difficult thing to understand. So Efrat is not fighting the war on the battlefront, it's fighting the war on the home front.
Hmm.
And we are making sure that babies on the home front are being born every single day. Support that we give takes usually 2 years. We escort the lady from the moment that the baby's born. She gets a crib, a carriage, a baby bath. And for 24 months thereafter, she gets monthly packages, including baby formula, diapers,
Hmm.
and basic staple supplies for her home, so that we just relieve the pressure and let her raise her baby with joy and in confidence. We don't make her rich. We don't change her financial situation. We change the pressure that made her led her to a decision that none of us would have want to been in, ever want to be in the future, and none of us want to have somebody by our side have to face that reality. So
Yeah.
that's what Efrat does in a nutshell.
All right. Well, and that's a beautiful work. I think a lot of Americans will be surprised to learn that abortion is an issue in Israel. I mean, we just don't know. But is this a very, how prominent is abortion? I would ask.
Abortion is not a prominent issue. It's not spoken about from day to day.
Mm.
Elections aren't,
Yeah.
turned on
Yeah.
that issue. There are no really public debates on that issue.
Mm.
However, when the reversal of Roe v. Wade happened in the United States, so we came under attack because we're the organization that does the work of saving babies in Israel. Again, not anti-abortion, but neither are a lot of the pregnancy centers in America, which are Christian driven. Not all of them are anti-abortion. They're pro-life. They're
Yeah.
not anti-anybody. They're really to help the woman out and to bring that child to life. But they came attacking us. And they said, you see, the Christian right is going to all of a sudden appear and it's going to ban abortions in Israel. And we said, okay, but that's nothing to do with us.
Mhm.
We're not about banning abortions. We're not interested in banning abortions. We're interested to be there by the side of a woman who we know
Mm.
if she was given the emotional and financial support, she would never make that decision. We are there by her side. And if she does make that decision, we're not God. I
Mm.
said to somebody this weekend, I said, I'm in God's army, but I'm not God.
Yeah. Right.
So I'm following his charge, but I'm not going to judge people. I don't condemn people. I don't pass judgment on a society or a culture. All I want to do is, if God calls to me and says, you need to help somebody, I'll be there to help. And if that person doesn't want to help, then God rules the world and man does not.
you, you're a lot nicer than I am. I was adopted at birth because my mother could not care for me,
Wow.
and so I have very a very strong sense that hey, those of us who are a product of a very difficult situation, as I was, we at least deserve a shot at life, And now I have a wonderful relationship both with my biological mother and my biological father. Tracked him down, took me 48 years. So, I mean,
Wow.
if any woman happens to be watching and you're struggling with this, I would just say, give us a chance. I called my mother when I found her. I was 25 years old, and I said, you don't know me, but 25 years ago, you made a very difficult decision. I'm guessing it was hard. I want to let you know that I've had a wonderful life. I had 2 children at the time. And I said, I just want to tell you, thank you. And when she quit crying, she asked if we could meet, and we did. And, I talk to her on a regular basis, and we go to lunch periodically because we don't live too far. So, I mean, you never know what's going to happen when you give that child a chance at life. And for many, any woman who's made that hard choice, whether you've given a child up for adoption or struggled through raising that child, thank you on behalf of all of us who are unplanned, unwanted pregnancies. Thank you. Thank you for giving us a chance. You have seen some amazing things happen over these decades of giving children a chance. What have some of those children gone on to do in life?
So I want to share with you a story actually now in the war, but before that, I have to say it was very moving what you shared, and I appreciate you sharing that. And I want you to know that I say this all the time. There's the side of fertility and there's the side of abortion, right? It's very difficult. So many women want to become pregnant. We know Rachel, our mother, wanted to be pregnant, and she told her husband, if I don't have a child, I'd rather die,
Hmm.
right? I must have a child, right? And on the other side of that, we have people unfortunately terminating their pregnancies. So I say this all the time. Pregnancy is not a choice of man. Never is. We try, and God decides whether that woman will conceive or not. I just met over the weekend a couple who became donor survivors, and they said to me they had 4 children, and all of a sudden it stopped. And for the last 12 years, they just can't become pregnant. They just can't. You know why? Because God makes that decision. But once God made the decision to bring you down to the world, now it's our decision.
Yeah.
And that's very powerful. We have an opportunity to partner with God. God said, I want Randy in this world, period. God already said it. He's on his way. Now the question is, will the woman carrying God's gift to the world, your God's gift to the world, will the woman make that decision to bring to the world or not? Or that soul will come from some kind of other direction, but it's meant to come from your birth mother. Why then it ends up in adoption, we don't know, but it's clear that that's the will of God. So I want to share with you something that was amazing. When the war began, we felt, since we've been around for 47 years, 86,000 children. It's almost 86,200 children. Every day it changes. We have babies born every single day.
Yeah.
So we realize some of them are in the war efforts, whether they're on the front or wherever. They're in the war, actively participating in the war. So we wanted to give them a hug. So we did 2 things. We ran out and we bought soft shell jackets. These are warm jackets to warm them up at night, because we knew that it was very, very cold, both on the Gaza border and up north. And we also ran around where the evacuees were, and we provided toys to evacuee families to their children. When we went up north, we handed out over 9,000 soft shell jackets, which it's rather expensive, it's rather costly. And we were down to our last 300. We already gave out, I think, 9,500. We were down to our last 300. And we didn't know what to do with it because we had a lot of demand. Calls me up an individual and says to me, listen here, you have to provide me soft shell jackets. I said, okay, but I'm not so sure I have. He says, I need for my son's unit, he's on the K9 unit, and we need 280 soft shell jackets. They're going into, I don't know how many of your listeners know, but unfortunately, the Hamas has booby-trapped this entire city called, this entire area called Gaza with underground tunnels, right? So that's where what happens is they're hiding in the underground tunnels, and we need to somehow go and search for hostages or for terrorists and kill whoever needs to be killed, unfortunately. Now, to go into these tunnels, the first unit going in are K9 dogs. God bless their special souls of these, K9 dogs. Unbelievable. So he says to me, my son is in a K9 unit. You must give him jackets. I said to him, I'm not really sure I can. I have, my last few. He says 280. I said, that's a little bit of a sign from God. I have 300. He wants 280. But I'm like, why are you so forceful? He said to me, because my son is your child. How can you not give him a jacket? I said, what do you mean he's my child? He says, 20 years ago, we were pregnant with 2 children. My wife was still breastfeeding, and she became pregnant with this boy. And we had scheduled an abortion because we could not make ends meet. How can we have another child? And out of nowhere, as if descending from heaven, these were his words, this volunteer of yours shows up from nowhere. We have volunteers in every neighborhood in Israel. And she just told my wife, don't worry, we'll be there for you. And he says to me like this, I didn't believe a word your volunteer said. A word. I said, okay. He said, I didn't believe somebody's going to give us a carriage and a bath and all they want. She happened to have been a religious Orthodox Jew. She says all she wants is for us not to abort, and after the baby's born, she's going to run away. And he says, we fought every day, my wife and I. And at the end, I understood my wife really, really wants this child. I was scared. I didn't know, but I decided at the end, okay, I'll give up to my wife. There's no way. This volunteer just fought. And these are his words. She fought for the life of my son. And now my son is fighting for your life. Won't you give him jackets? I said, okay. He said to me, you know what happened though? When I came home with my son from the hospital, I was so nervous. How am I going to feed him? Where am I going to put him to sleep? And as I came back home, I saw right next to my door a brand new crib, a brand new carriage. I just couldn't believe it. And you were with me for 2 years later. And now, thank God, I don't need your assistance. But my son does. And he's your son. Bring him jackets. I said, okay, I'm going into Gaza. He says, you actually can't go because he's literally fighting in Gaza. But you can go meet his commander at a base. In 36 hours, they're going to have a little bit of a break. And when they'll come out, they'll give them these warm jackets. I'm on my way. I call him up. I say, Ellie, I'm on my way to your son. He said, I knew you'd do it. We'd do anything for our kids, wouldn't we?
Yeah, yeah.
I said, yes, we would. Yes, we would. So I'm on my way. He says to me, but that's not the end of the story. I said, what do you mean? He says, when we do good in the world, good just continues. It's contagious. I said, what do you mean? He says, 9 months after my son was born, my wife's cousin had the exact same problem. We ran over to her and we said, you can't terminate the pregnancy because a lack of finances. So they said, well, who's going to provide? He says, what do you mean? How are we able to afford our son? There's this organization called EFRAT. She's like, forget about it. I have an abortion schedule. Leave me alone. They said, no, at least meet with their volunteer. And your volunteer, just like with our son, literally fought for their lives. Mm. And they too are new cadets in the army and are right now, it wasn't one boy that you saved with my wife's cousin. It was twin boys. And these twin boys are right now fighting on the Gaza border.
Is that the photo I
Quite
have?
Powerful.
Is that the photo I have? Because I've got a photo of two young men with canine.
Yes, so you can't actually see their faces,
right?
Because that's not allowed because they're in a very special unit. But I believe so.
There's that photo right there. So I mean, just on the topic of abortion, when you give people a chance, you never know what can come from that. And in Israel, it's turned around. I mean, this is just such a beautiful picture where you fight for the life of a child, and that child, unfortunately, but also fortunately, is able to fight for your lives, for everyone there in Israel. And I you look at that, and when we talk about you reap what you sow, we usually use that in a negative sense, but it works on the positive side too, So sowing these seeds of life, you're reaping the blessings of it. You mentioned that your son is fighting right now. Is that correct?
Correct. Listen, I want you to know, and I want your listeners to understand, the war in Israel, not only is it so important to side with Israel at this time, we're siding with you because people don't. I'm an American. My father, just to give you a background, my father's a Holocaust survivor who ended up, in the United States, served on the U.S. Air Force, then moved to Israel, served in the Israeli army. We are big U.S. patriots and obviously very proud Israelis. These people don't speak the same language as you and I. They don't. So when we go in, you understand, for our boys, the concept of killing, they are warriors. The concept of killing is terrible. That's why our army is called the Israeli Defense Forces. We do not want to kill them. But we have two options here. Either not kill, and we will be killed. Yeah. In 100% certainty, 100%. Or you have to kill. If we don't do this work is not only done for the Jews in Israel, and not only done for Jews around the world, it's done for the Western world in its entirety, because they are here to destroy our values, period. Every person fallen in Israel is a terrible tragedy. Every person fallen on their side is a tragedy, but they celebrate it. How do you explain that?
Yeah.
They receive martyrdom. Of course, a person who dies in a holy war, if they believe it's a holy war, I understand that theory, but they actually send them out to die. They don't send them out to defend. Come, sit down, come to an agreement. They're not interested. They are not interested. And if they're not stopped at the helm, they will make it to your house. My grandfather used to say, he lived in Luxembourg. Luxembourg was a neutral country. The Luxembourgers in his area were very friendly to the Jews. But when the Nazis came in, the Luxembourg government gave them information of where to find the Jews. Jew by Jew, they just fetched them out and led them to their deaths. Mm. That's what they want. If you're not going to listen to their values, they're going to come. First, they're going to give you that little kiss, and we know it from the Bible. The kiss that kills, right? We know that kiss. And then they're going to come with the swords. They work on both fronts. We need to be very careful. And this war, the prayers, all of your listeners should understand the prayers are so important because it's protecting the Holy Land of Israel, but it's also protecting the entire world. And I can see no greater prayer in action than going to God and saying, please protect your children on the war front. We will protect your children on the home front. Go to EFRAT, EFRAT.org, learn about us, support us, sign up to our newsletter so you see the activity, you hear about these stories, you will be inspired. And when you come to Israel, come and visit EFRAT. And in your communities, wherever you are in the United States or around the world, help another woman make sure that that child comes into this world because he has something beautiful to deliver. God said he needs to come to this world. Give him that chance.
Yeah, and I have to ask you, given what we're seeing in the United States, what level of concern do you have? Because I'm frankly almost baffled. Like, seriously, this is going on in our country, the anti-Semitism. What do you think when you see that?
It's extremely, extremely alarming. When I saw what happened with the universities, right, with those presidents of Harvard and Penn and wherever it was, that's pre-Nazi Germany.
It is.
It is. And you could say, well, that doesn't make sense. Jews are very comfortable in the United States. That's true. Jews were extremely comfortable in pre-Nazi Germany. Yeah. And if you think the tide can't turn quickly, it can turn very, very quickly. And that is very, very alarming. Very alarming. And if it turns against the Jews, it can turn against the Christians next. It can turn against anybody who has those values. You see the president in the United States, I don't want to talk politics, but you have a president who's persona non grata, which is just, it's a shame to be, as a proud American, even if we had a wonderful Democratic president, okay, but you have an unfortunate president that's not with us cognitively, which is extremely, extremely sad. But you don't have the Congress really throwing out people that are speaking blatant hate, blatant, open hate. Right. That's unbelievable. And if you don't stop it, it's gonna haunt all of your viewers. It's just a matter of time. It's one level. The Jews are the first line of battle. God forbid if the Jews ever go down, then you're the next line of battle. And they're not going to stop. There's no agreement that they're going to stop with. There's nothing that is going to appease them. Nothing. I know we have a lot to talk about, not much time, but I'm always happy to come back on your show.
Yeah, well, and the thing, I'm a little bit of a history buff, especially in the World War II era. And when you study the 1930s, we know about the Jewish Holocaust. Obviously, they were singled out and targeted, but there were a lot of Christians and some other groups, gypsies especially, who were also targeted. And so any Christian that thinks, well, I mean, that's just the Jews or whatever, and some of the theological stuff on the evangelical Christian side is messed up and I think anti-Semitic. But the point is that when you've got someone who is diametrically opposed to God, who says we will win because we love death more than you love life, and they have promised to exterminate you from the river to the sea. I mean, that's very clear. They're not hiding the agenda.
No.
You got to stand against that because that is death. That is not God. That is wrong. And so, I mean, we just need to wake up and we need to confront this because it's very disturbing. I've never seen anything like this, and I don't like it. And sometimes it's I have the privilege of being able to go on at least online and sometimes on television broadcast and talk about it a little bit. But I mean, for the average person, I don't know. Pray, obviously, pray. We underestimate the power of prayer. and then support organizations that are doing the work like EFRAT is doing. But I mean, we can't just sit back and watch, because that doesn't work.
And you have to speak out. I went to public school in Cleveland, Ohio. You have to speak out. You cannot sit idly by. It's not a Jewish matter. You have to speak out. And if you don't speak out because you're afraid, then they're just going to haunt you. You can't sit on the side and say, oh, I don't want to create any waves because, maybe I'm going to get involved in the commotion. You will be involved in the commotion. So either you hit it up, jump into it head first, or they're going to come at you. And when they come at you, it's much worse. That's why we're fighting this war, because we have to come at it head first, and we cannot stop that battle.
Yeah, I agree. And we can vote for people who in America will stand up against it as well.
Absolutely.
And so I think we have that, not just privilege, but responsibility.
Absolutely.
Nir, I know you need to go. You got a flight to catch, and I appreciate your time and appreciate what you're doing. Is there anything I missed, anything you need to add before I let you go?
Just, if you can ask your listeners, go on EFRAT.org. It's worth it. It's beautiful. And help, if you can help EFRAT, get involved and help EFRAT, and also make sure that you help the women in your community, those that need you, or you're not even aware that they need you, and give those children a chance and give that woman a chance to partner with God in bringing that life.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you very much. I've got cribefrat.org.
Cribefrat.org.
It goes the same
Crib
place.
stands for the Committee of the Rescue of Israel's Babies. It's the same website.
Oh, okay.
It goes to the same place.
Yeah, I was going to let
We
people know.
just shortened it so it makes it easier, but
Right.
cribefrat.org.
Yeah, both of them work. Just want to let people that are watching that going, he said one thing, it's the same thing. So if you can do anything to help, we appreciate that. And Nir, again, thank you for the work you're doing. We stand with you. We appreciate you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate all you guys out there watching. Hit that share button. Let people know what's going on, how they can help, what they need to do to stand up, be vocal, be prayerful, and then take action. And there are a lot of good organizations, EFRAT.org, one you can go to right now and help people. Appreciate you.